This video's for you, chaps magoo. Stangg versus Erebos, and we have a decent amount of ramp there. We can actually get down a turn 2 commander, so I'll keep that. Draw into Sakura Tribalkai, so yeah, can't get that down on turn 1. So it's Ancient Tomb into the Arcane Signet. Alright, and draw into Sticky Fingers, so can ramp a bit with that as well. Argument to be made for the Elemental Bond here, but we can trigger that with our commander even after it's entered, so yeah, let's drop the forest and get down a fast commander. Our opponent might be holding up removal for us, but we'll test them. Okay, our opponent follows suit, gets down Ancient Tomb and throws down an Erebos of his own. Do have a little bit of life gain in here, but it's incidental life gain. We're not really that worried about gaining life. Rabbit Battery we draw into a little bit too late. So now we can go Karplusum Forest. We could go Strip Mine onto the Ancient Tomb to really kill their mana, but I don't think that's a really fun way of playing at this particular juncture. So Ancient Tomb for the Elemental Bond. Start drawing cards this turn. And Sticky Fingers onto the Stangg. And then when we swing in, we will get a copy of our commander. And the Sticky Fingers will go onto there. That triggers the Elemental Bond, because that does trigger on tokens. And we get ourselves into a Champion's Helm. And then we hit our opponent with the Sticky Fingers, so it is a treasure token for each one. So we could just go for the Champion's Helm here, I suppose. Yeah, I think that makes decent use of our mana. We're really showing our opponent that we've got Hexproof online. So argument to be made for us not playing that so that they can't use the spot removal, but they use a Bond 2's Last Reckoning anyway, which means they're pretty much not going to have any black mana. We draw another card. We already drew one from the token dying. Got into another land, so our commander dying there to the board wipe gets us into another land. And then we draw into Nettle Seist, so we'll play out the Rockfall Vale. And I think we're just getting down our commander again here. Tapping out for that without haste, unfortunately. But we do draw another card. That is Godo Bandit Warlord, obviously part of a combo. A really obvious combo to shove in here, but I've actually never played the Godo combo. Yeah, maybe thinking I should have waited on the Stangg. Could have set up with some equipment more and had Hexproof and haste from the Rabbit Battery and Champion's Helm. But our opponent doesn't have black mana available, and they did just drop a Wasteland here, along with a Darksteel Pendant. So thought it was fairly risk-free in getting that down without our opponent having any black mana available. Kodama's Reach for us. Let's get a dual land. Put Hexproof on our commander first of all. That might dictate. They could have had some free means of getting rid of our commander, but obviously allowing that into play, or onto our commander, I think we could do with ramping here, so let's go for the Kodama's Reach. Really want to try and stay ahead of my opponent on mana. Grab a couple of mountains, one goes into play tapped, one goes into hand, and then we'll swing in, see what we draw into. Triggers our commander again, of course, and the token copy will trigger the Elemental Bond, draws us into the commander's plate, which could play this turn, I suppose. And it's 10 damage on my opponent here. A black player is really going to struggle against equipment. The commander's plate makes the Nettle Seist a lot better. The Rabbit Battery buffs it as well, so play out the Rabbit Battery, play the commander's plate as well. And we're not doing anything with the mana, so I might as well put Rabbit Battery on our commander. It does give it a +1/+1 buff. Obviously it's not making use of the haste here. Scry 1 from the Darksteel Pendant. And we're losing out on a lot of card draw. The Sticky Fingers, I think, is the only aura in the deck, but yeah, being able to draw a card off this every turn from our token going down would have been really good had our opponent not dealt with it straight away. Alright, another board wipe in a Damnation. So we do keep the Rabbit Battery because it was equipped. Our commander back in the command zone again. So maybe we start setting up Godo Bandit Warlord here. Throw out the Reflecting Pool. Throw down Godo Bandit Warlord, put Elemental Bond on the stack first, and our opponent sees what we're about to do and scoops it up. Godo allows us to search for an equipment and put it into play. Not going to be able to equip it up yet, but we are about to go infinite with the Helm of the Host. And for any newer players who don't know, Helm of the Host goes onto here and it makes infinite Godos and we get infinite combat steps. So they have another turn to deal with Godo, and that kills the combo. But yeah, don't fancy their odds there, obviously, so we'll play another one. Stangg versus the Scarab God this time. Got some means of haste and Sword of the Animist. That's pretty slow, but I'm hoping a Dimir play is going to be as well. We're on the draw. Just an island from our opponent. That is a stomping ground. Yeah, we can shock ourselves if we are desperate to get an untapped land in. We'll play the Rabbit Battery and start pecking away at our opponent. Mind Stone for the Scarab God. I think we can start to look at setting up Sword of the Animist here. Draw another board wipe in Blasphemous Act, so can drag the game out as long as we like here. Throw down the Sword of the Animist and we'll peck our opponent again. Dreamscape Artist for the Dimir player, and then getting down a tapped zombie in Diagraph Ghoul. Okay, and we draw into a Farseek annoyingly, so yeah, could have done with that previously really. Yeah, let's swing in with Sword of the Animist anyway. So that gets equipped up to the Rabbit Battery and we can swing in here. Depending on what our opponent does next turn, there'd be an argument for us actually going for the Chandra's Ignition to try and slow them down. Play that in tapped, because this can set up reanimation, it can also land ramp them, so it's doing both the things that they want to do. Whatever, let's swing in with the battery. A Forgotten Creation from our opponent now, obviously went for a zombie theme in this deck, so not going for the ramp with the Dreamscape Artist, maybe don't have a land in hand, instead deciding to deal 3 points of damage to us. Alright, a Reaver Cleaver, some nice ramp for us. Drop a land and let's go for the Stangg. We can give it haste this turn. Could throw away our Rabbit Battery for the sake of another land here, but I think I'd just rather keep that equipment available to us. Do have Swiftfoot Boots in hand, so yeah, we don't necessarily need to do that, but the more permanents that our opponent have to deal with, then the better it is for us. So swing in with a 4-5, we obviously get a copy of this. Our opponent being hit by a couple of 4-5s unless they decide to block, which they don't. Forgotten Creation triggering there, and yep, decided not to discard all the cards in their hand, so 2 cards in hand after dropping the land. The Scarab God into play, with no cards in the graveyard. Chishiro into play, which if we're going to go for Chandra's Ignition, probably not the best idea to play that out yet. So let's go for Sword of the Animist onto the Stangg. That will give it the buff enough for being able to get rid of the Scarab God, although we're only going to be able to cast it next turn. And then I don't think they've got spot removal, or they would have used it by now, so instead of the Swiftfoot Boots we'll go Farseek here. And they could gang up on us here with all the blockers that they've left back, so yeah, I'm just going to hold back myself here. And now they get the trigger from the Forgotten Creation again, the trigger from the Scarab God as well. They control 2 zombies, so scry 2 and we lose 2. Diagraph Colossus, another one to wrap up in the board wipe. Just hoping my opponent doesn't scoop to the Chandra's Ignition at this point. Returned Reveler. When it dies, each player mills 3. Not bothered about that. They get a zombie token thanks to the Diagraph Colossus. Love this card. And then our 5-6 holding our opponent back. An Embercleave for us, so yeah, we're just going straight in for the Chandra's Ignition. So that will deal damage equal to its power to all my opponent's stuff, and it does successfully manage to wipe them out. So we mill 3, the Scarab God can go back into their library if they want it to, or it's back into their hand with this cycle, isn't it? Yeah, straight back into their hand at the next end step. They do have stuff in their graveyard now at least. We mill both of our fast pieces, Soul Ring and Mana Crypt, as well as a land. Our opponent will be glad to see that. Still going to ramp with Sword of the Animist though, swing in with our commander. Doesn't matter which order those go in. Won't get the Sword of the Animist trigger on the mirror image. Oh, and accidentally clicked. Accidentally clicked. The Sword of the Animist is legendary. And yeah, accidentally clicked on the wrong one and binned the original. Oh well. Gives our opponent a slight advantage there at least. Seeing an Ice over now being punished for not having the Swiftfoot Boots on our commander. Makes a bit more of a game out of it here. Okay, seeing Godo Bandit Warlord, so that might have our opponent scoop. So yeah, let's just play it anyway. They're in Dimir, so they might have counter magic or some kind of removal for it. So Godo enters and triggers. They don't have any counter magic, or they didn't hold up any blue mana actually. find ourselves a Helm of the Host. Thankfully, from our opponent's perspective, we can't equip it, but we can put haste on the Godo. Helm of the Host going to trigger, but it is not equipped to a creature, so that won't do anything. Swing in with the Godo, and that will trigger Godo. Means we're going to get another combat step after this. So swing in again for a second time, that is 8 damage in total. And our opponent really needs to deal with the Godo at this point. Seeing the Scarab Guard from our opponent again doesn't matter, because if we've got infinite Godos, then we're just going to pile on the damage as they block. So there is a Lizard Blades. We go for the equip, Helm of the Host onto Godo, and then we'll go straight through to combat. Helm of the Host going to equip. I've never actually got this combo off on the channel before, never even attempted it, because it's always been a bit of an obvious one to me. So Godo comes into play, we will get another equipment into play. Let's go for the Hammer of Nazan. That can get free equips up on creatures, so we'll just throw that onto the original. Then we swing in with both of our Godos, and each of those triggers, so there's an additional combat phase after this. 2 additional combat phases. So they just block the token here. I think they're just playing it out for the sake of it. We get these 6 points of damage through to them, and yeah, even if they could have blocked the original Godo there and kept their Scarab God in play, we had infinite Godos on them, infinite equipments coming into play and being equipped thanks to the Hammer of Nazan. So yeah, no matter how much life they had there, we ended up having them in the end. Hopefully you all enjoyed that one. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up if you want to see more from Stangg Echo Warrior. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.